Mom, what are you doing? I asked. What does it look like? She replied, not turning away from the mirror. But you haven't worn makeup since. I didn't finish because I didn't want to remind my mother that she was a widow. You're the one who says life goes on, and I'm not an old woman yet. And you're right, I can still be attractive. Well, though maybe not to everyone. Saying this, Margaret adopted a sexy pose that was more suited to cabaret. I burst out laughing. When I saw my mother apply her makeup with confidence, I was stunned at first. Apparently, I was pushing her to date people myself. I kept telling her that she was still young and attractive, that she had a beautiful figure, and that she hadn't been practicing yoga for nothing. Still, it had been so long since I'd seen my mother in a dress and shoes and makeup that I couldn't help but be amazed. You're what? Going on a date? I marveled. Yes, I am. And remember, it's all your fault, Mum smiled. Actually, after my father died, my mother was like a wilted flower. It was sad to look at her. So, when the mourning passed, I persuaded my mother to stop living in the past. Daddy wouldn't want to see you unhappy, depressed. I convinced my mother. No one can replace your father, she answered sadly. Tears often came to her eyes. Mom, I'm not saying you can replace him with someone because Dad was irreplaceable. I just want you to fill the void you have in your life right now. I worry about you. I want you to have someone to talk to when I'm not around, someone to make you laugh when you're sad, for you to have someone to go to the movies with or to dinner with. That was about where the conversation usually ended, and my mother was silent. When I had already decided that my entreaties were having the opposite effect, I stopped insisting. And, as usually happens in such situations, when the pressure was relieved, after a while Mom began to change. Should I put an ad in the paper? Margaret asked. The newspaper is a thing of the past, I replied when I finally got my thoughts together. I don't understand what that means, she asked. There are so many dating sites and different apps now. No one has put such ads in the newspaper for a long time. It's better to get acquainted on the internet, it's less binding. What should I write in an ad on a dating site so it's not too frivolous? Mom seriously approached the question. Who are you looking for, a friend or a walking companion? Should I write that I am a widow of a wonderful man and not a schoolgirl who has never yet kissed? I laughed out loud. Oh, Mom, you can write on your profile that you are experienced, confident woman and that you are looking for a serious man. Those who have kissed a few women before. Mom threw a pillow at me in response. And for a long time, we both laughed like teenagers. I was glad my mother had finally come out of her hole. Suddenly, she got serious and asked, Do you think your father will be jealous? I knew that this question was not about whether a ghost could be jealous, but that my mother, by choosing to date another man, was thereby insulting the memory of her beloved late husband. I have no doubt that he would rather see you happy with another than lonely and sad. That's how my mother entered the world of dating. I got used to her wearing makeup and dressing up again. I think she liked it too, as a new, exciting, unusual hobby. Not a week went by without a date, and after the third date, I stopped counting them. She wasn't infatuated, rather, she was having a great time accepting compliments, as if after years of being a devoted wife, she had learned what a fascinating game flirting can be. But the unprecedented fun ended when Edward showed up. That's when things got serious. I had a great time. My stomach hurts from laughing already, and my makeup is all smeared, Mum exclaimed as she returned home from her third consecutive date with Edward. She threw her purse on the chair in the hallway, hung up her favorite coat crookedly, and took off her shoes, tossing them carelessly to the floor. I'd never seen her like that before. Why don't you finally tell me about him? Reveal something more than a name, I insisted. She sat across from me in the chair with her feet on the armrest, like a teenager, even though she's a respectable 55-year-old lady. This indicated that she was in a particularly good mood. I found out more information about her new boyfriend, especially since she stopped seeing other people. His name is Edward, Mom. I already know that. He's a little taller than me, although when I put on my shoes, we're almost the same height. He's younger than me, but only by 7 years. He has a fantastic sense of humor. He's a great looking guy. He is elegantly and tastefully dressed, like the president of a big company or a politician. He has no shortage of money, but he doesn't boast about it. And when we are together, he focuses only on me. He anticipates my every move, fulfills my desires before I say them. He understands my situation perfectly, and his voice is so deep and enchanting. Do you know what a chatterbox I am? But with him, I may not talk at all, just listen. On the other hand, I love our humorous verbal exchange. It's so invigorating. I feel great with him. So I see you're in trouble. I think so. You know what he offered me? A vacation in Crete. Can you imagine? He remembered that it was one of my unfulfilled dreams and decided to make it come true. He also offered to pay for it, but I refused. I do have some dignity, and besides, I can afford it. I listened with interest to these revelations, enjoying her happiness. But when I helped organize my mother's wedding ceremony with Edward 3 months later, I wasn't as enthusiastic about their relationship. Of course, I had time to get to know my future stepfather better, and he made quite a nice impression on me. But I still felt like their romance was moving too fast. They had known each other for too little time to take such a serious step as marriage. If they were in their 20s and it was unbridled passion. But they are adults now. What's the rush? The older you get, the harder it is to adjust to the other person. Each of them, Mom and Edward, had their own habits and tastes. Each had his own expectations and personality traits. So far, they had never quarreled, and even that already seemed a little suspicious to me. Their relationship was too perfect. I wondered, was my mother really in love with Edward, or was she rather seduced by the idea of falling in love? Why couldn't they live together first, see how their life together would turn out? Their current romantic relationship was without taking out the trash, without fighting and arguing, without household chores, without hangovers. They had little in common with a real relationship. Mom must understand this because she's been married for almost 30 years. Is she so nostalgic for the stage of compliments and exciting flirtations? Heck, after all, she hadn't even been in bed with him yet. Mom was a religious, traditional person, but observing abstinence before marriage is a bit of an exaggeration these days, especially since they had been adults for a long time. They should check this important aspect of the relationship. But when I half jokingly hinted that she didn't need to get married to have sex, she didn't seem amused. You said you wanted happiness for me. I'm not old, but I'm not young anymore. You have time, but I don't. How long do I have to wait? In many months or years, will it be long enough for you to give us your blessing? What if I regret every lost week later? Your father passed away too soon. I didn't treasure every moment. None of us knows what tomorrow will bring. It's important to enjoy what we have now. It's better to try and be disappointed than to regret chickening out later. Oh, it was impossible to argue with such arguments. It was as if we had switched roles. I was now boring and cautious, and she wanted to trust her emotions and jump headfirst into an unknown river. And even if I still felt that her decision had been rash, I accepted it. Because she was, after all, a mature, reasonable woman. She had the right to decide for herself. She also had the right to get burned. I had only to support her and keep my fingers crossed for her. So, as a benevolent bridesmaid, I decided to consult with my friend Lily, who recently got married, about all of this. Look how much prettier she looks now, I said, showing Lily a picture of my mom from vacation. Like a teenager. Yes, exactly. She looks younger than you do now, Lily teased me. Hey, stop it, I replied. Wait. Lily frowned her eyebrows, staring intently at the picture. Can you enlarge this picture? She asked. Of course. I zoomed in on my phone. Wait, I know that guy. Lily was still staring intently at the picture of Mum and Edward. How do you know him? And why are you calling him a guy? My Aunt Rose, you know her. She lives in the suburbs in a big house. She and Uncle Luke were supposed to enjoy growing old together in that beautiful house, but Uncle didn't live to see it. And this guy met my aunt at the theater. And if he was waiting for her there, they got to talking. He charmed her with neat compliments. He asked what such a beautiful, elegant woman was doing alone on such a beautiful evening. Maybe she could be invited for coffee and so on. Auntie thought he was crazy at first, but he looked at her like she was a cream puff. So she swallowed his sweet words, and the journey from coffee to marriage went by at an accelerated pace. Lily thought about it and came up with a cunning plan. I don't understand the purpose of this meeting. Edward's been complaining about the lack of time lately. Suddenly you bring him here? I'm not enough? Said the confused mother. I shook my head. Mom, this is something very important, so we should all be there in a few minutes. Edward walked into the cafe, his movements hasty. Hi, he said and kissed my cheek. How've you been? I'm very busy, so much to do. It won't take you long. I signaled, and Lily and her aunt approached us. Edward was dumbfounded when he saw his ex-wife, Aunt Lily. He didn't know what to do, run or play dumb. He looked so confused and frightened, as if he saw not so much his ex-wife as the ghost of his dead wife, whom he had killed with his own hands. Hello, kitty cat, Aunt Rose murmured with coquettish sarcasm. You disappeared so suddenly. I was afraid something had happened to you. I understand your disappointment about the house. Edward adopted a strange strategy. I don't know this woman, he shouted, turning to my mother, who was wide-eyed and apparently slowly beginning to understand the situation. You don't know me? Were you in some kind of accident and suffering from amnesia? Rose asked with exaggerated concern. So, whose information is on the divorce application? She waved her briefcase, which presumably contained evidence of her words, and then looked at my mother. He told you that a woman grows more beautiful with age, complimented your laughter, the way you sit, touched your hair, marveled at your style, your taste, the magnificent decorations of your house. He unobtrusively insisted on getting married because time waits for no one, because you don't know what might happen tomorrow, because happiness has to be caught like butterflies. The look on my mother's face was too eloquent. Aunt Rose nodded. I feel for you, dear. You're lucky, though, that you found out the truth before you got married. You avoided divorce and kept the house. But she pointed her head at Edward's floating face. Hunting widows and trying to get married, rewrite the property and then get a divorce. If it weren't for my late husband, who made a will in advance, I'd be out of this marriage without a roof over my head. He only knows how to talk pretty and nothing else. Edward, who must have realized that he had been exposed and that his plans had gone awry, decided to get out of the way. And my mother? She took it all surprisingly well, with her newfound sense of humor ironic and detached. I must have learned my lesson, she said. A fact is a fact. You have to catch happiness like butterflies. What kind of silly metaphor is that? And then what? String them on a pin and put them under the glass? I was afraid that my hurt and deceived mother would lock herself away again, and this time forever. She would think that nothing good awaited her in life, that she was destined to be a sad, lonely widow. But thank goodness nothing of the sort happened. In her own words, she took a risk and lost. But after quietly analyzing what happened, she claims that if she had chickened out, she would have regretted it more. She stopped making weekly appointments with men, although not refused to meet at all. She just stopped rushing. My happiness will find me, she once said. In the meantime, my mother is discovering other pleasures of life. She goes to the gym, walks, and got interested in photography. I even helped her start a blog where she exhibits her amateur photos, starring insects, mostly butterflies and moths. After another batch of Mum's photos, she has more and more subscribers, and one of them writes to her more and more often, puzzling her with questions and giving advice. It would be interesting to see what comes of this.